Today's video is about terrible, tragic, grief-laden loss. This is the first video that I've discussed the loss of my son, Christopher. As far back as I can remember in my adult life, I had a recurring dream of a shy, blue-eyed little girl. In the dream, I saw her, and yet I was still looking for her. She would disappear down an aisle at the grocery store, and when I went to look down the aisle, she wouldn't be there. I would feel disappointment. I would look up and see her peeking out of a completely different aisle. Waking up dreaming about this sweet, shy, blue-eyed little girl left me feeling two things. First, she was one of my children, and I would find her. And second, I would know her when we met. 16 years ago, I took a job at the school that most of my kids were attending. I was a teacher's assistant for the kindergarten class, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Early on in my position, I saw her, the blue-eyed, shy little girl from my dreams. Even though I had done over 9 years of foster parenting, I thought I was going crazy to believe that someone else's little girl was my little girl. I pulled her chart and I realized she was being raised by a single dad. It was the same single dad that all the single moms were talking about because he was the cute single dad. She and I had a special connection right from the start. At first, she was too shy to get off the outside step to play in the little playground. Eventually, she and I were passing the ball, and then she was playing with other kids. Other kids noticed that she was my special girl, which is where the name came from. And although I would never want other kids to feel slighted, she's been that ever since. Her dad and I eventually became friends, and we had play dates. We had kids very close in age. My kids loved her, and she always felt like part of our family. Months later, her dad and I started dating, and in the end, I had a 7-year relationship with him. At the beginning of our relationship, I learned that my special girl's mom wasn't very involved, and she had an older brother with a different dad. Her older brother began to be invited over to my house so that they could spend time together, and then he became part of our family. Over time, my special girl's mom had another little girl. By then, we were so involved with her older brother and with her that the younger sister just kind of came on board automatically. I was still involved in foster care. So when CPS became involved, I got the call to take my special girl's siblings. Saying yes was a brainless choice as they were already part of the family, and they were her family, which meant even more. Christopher was 10 when I met him and 12 when he moved in with me permanently. A couple years later, he had the opportunity to move back to his biological mom's house, but he declined. He aged out with me and was always part of our family. No different to me than any other biological, adopted, or foster child that called me mom. I loved him completely. Christopher had an outstanding sense of humor. He was always childlike in how he expressed himself. He was open and honest with his feelings, and everyone who spent time with him felt a little better for having known him. He went from being this chubby little kid to an incredible athlete, from following me begrudgingly on runs to passing me practically running backwards. He was always up for an adventure, even if that meant hanging his head out the car window while I was driving. He didn't fit in at the traditional high school, and since I wasn't particularly fond of his new plan to drop out of high school his sophomore year and be a professional gamer, he and I researched, interviewed, and found a school that fit him better. Christopher, like most kids, didn't like his turn on the chore wheel when it landed on kitchen. However, after a couple months at the dorm-style school he attended down the street from us, for his final time in high school, he came home on the weekends and apologized profusely. Apparently, life in a dorm of 600 kids and pulling KP duty was far worse than any chore I have ever thrown at him. He also thanked me for teaching him how to do chores. Christopher was really sweet with his feelings and tender in how he expressed them, and always hilarious in his presentation. His best friend John sent a video of him. Now, forewarning you here, John and Christopher had been drinking, and he's talking about how he's going to be a tree climber. This is the only video of Christopher that I found. When you lose someone, the videos and the pictures and the audio become so intensely important. I don't even have words. This is so hilarious to us because although he's drunk, it really embodies who Christopher was and what he's like.
6 years old is when I decided to be a tree climber. So you know what? All you guys are going to see what it's like to be like a tree climber.
Okay.
I'm going to climb the tallest tree, you guys.
Christopher became an adult. He was in a relationship. He had a son. Some of my favorite memories are of his lighthearted personality shining through as a dad. He always remained connected to my other kids who were all truly his siblings. And to me, although his relationship with my special girl was the strongest connection. I was a better human being for having the privilege of calling him my son. And I cherish that he decided early on to call me mom. We used to lovingly call Christopher the interloper. In pictures, he'd always act like he was a stranger, not part of the group, and just enter into the picture somewhere. That was just his sense of humor, and it's also one of my favorite memories. On August 6th, 2016, at 23 years old, Christopher was reported missing. At that point, he was living 7 hours away in Vegas, and we all felt completely unprepared for what to do. Nothing about the situation seemed to add up at all, and we were all left acutely feeling a loss without any closure. His biological mom went on an absolute rampage to get information out to the public, to raise awareness, to do anything possible to figure out a way to find him, from being on podcasts to launching a Facebook account where information was posted. And in this time period, I remained silent. I knew if I came forward to help, if I was interviewed, if I started posting, it would become very clear who I was, what my role had been, and his biological mom could potentially lose credibility. It would be apparent that once people realized the situation, he lived with me more years than he lived with his mom. Regardless of the situation, I would never want to intentionally hurt her, and most certainly didn't want to hurt the investigation into the missing person case. My silence has seemed necessary, and not being part of the process to do as much possible only increased my feelings of isolation and sadness. My special girl and I talked, and it was also important to me to allow her to express the pain of the situation with her brother. And through those conversations, I could process some of the abyss of pain that occasionally threatens to swallow me. On August 3rd, 2020, almost exactly 4 years after our first horrifying phone call that Christopher was missing, the call came that his remains had been found and matched his DNA. Although it was an expected relief, it was also devastating. You do not realize at all how much hope you're holding out on until you no longer have that option. To say losing my son is devastating would be a gross understatement. Unless you've been through the loss of a child, you can only empathize. And for those of you that have also experienced it, I am so deeply sorry that you understand that level of pain. My special girl had some audio recordings that Christopher had left on her answering machine, and she graciously shared the video that I already showed and the audio.
Hey, Ashley. It's your brother. Just giving you a call. Tell you I love you and I hope you have a blessed day. Yeah, I love you. Hey, Ashley. It's your brother. Just giving you a call. Tell you happy 4th of July. I love you. Call me back when you get the chance. I love you. Hi, Ashley. Just talk. Ashley. It's your buddy. I love you. All right. Give me a call back whenever you're off school or whatever you're doing. I love you. Bye.
In my younger years of parenting, I speculated that if I lost a child, the only thing keeping me grounded would be knowing that my other kids needed me and that I loved being their mom. With 18 kids total, I had a lot of other children who I felt needed me and that I wanted to continue to be there for. I have found that thought to be true. Although my faith and knowing Christopher would want us to live our lives fully and with some of his innocent, wild abandon also pushes me to move forward. Years ago, I look forward to my dreams of that shy, blue eyed little girl and the potential future we held. I never would have guessed that through her, I would find so much more. She is a constant reminder that even through terrible, grief laden loss, there is also an outstanding propensity for blissful joy. There will never be a moment, a day that goes by that I don't acutely feel the loss of my son. Also, never a moment goes by that I don't feel intensely grateful for those 13 years I had with him before he died at the age of 23. If you're struggling with loss, with grief, and with overwhelm, there are people, including myself, who are here to help, who understand where you're coming from and will talk to you with compassion and give you the grace that I know I needed when I was going through this process. I don't think it gets easier to have lost a child. However, I would have to say, after 5 years of having my son gone, that you do learn to live with it. I want you to know that in your struggle of grief and loss and overwhelm, there are people that will be there for you to help you process what you're feeling and to support you in this journey. I feel blessed that I have this large, incredible family and that I have a really excellent relationship with almost all of my kids, including Christopher before he passed on. Talking about it is one of the things that has helped me the most. Thank you so much for watching and have a blessed day.